Should climate change science be taught in schools?
Oof, really good question. Without a doubt, yes. And I think it already is, but it's one of those subjects which could be expanded into different subjects as well. So don't just hold it in, say, biology or chemistry. It has to be kind of expanded across. But I would kind of go, I wouldn't say climate change as it only should be taught. We should be looking more at sustainability as well, because sustainability then is not just about environment; it's about all resources. So that's economic, it's cultural, it's social, and that is what we kind of really need to get a grip on. Climate change is utterly essential. We need to sort that issue out, and as they're trying to do at COP, but sustainability, so that whatever you are, whether you're a school, an individual, a business, a university, we need to make sure that everyone is sustainable so that we can keep going into the future, using the resources that we need. So yes, education is important. I mean, my kids, they're 10 and 7. They get quite a bit of climate change and sustainability and biodiversity and ecology. They'll get it all at school. Could we be doing more? Yes. We could also be getting, natural history into school, into education as well, to give people an appreciation of the natural world. Because I think if people start to appreciate the natural world, then the issues about, what we're doing, the damage that we're doing to it, it'll actually be relevant to them. And I think then the battle is almost won.
So right, isn't it? And that was the big lesson of the lockdown, is that we all stopped and smelt the coffee, as it were. We heard the birds tweeting. We really tasted the clean air, and we've kind of forgotten all of that. And, it's really interesting that you talk about, your own kids already learning stuff at school. And in a funny sort of way, it's almost the over 50s that perhaps need the lessons on climate change. Is there an argument, do you think, that actually the youngsters, the schools, they're already all over this? The problems are with perhaps those who are in office, the policymakers, and whether or not that message is getting through quickly enough?
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, obviously we could always do more at schools, get more education, but there is this generational gap, without a doubt. Baby boomers perhaps didn't have as much education about climate and about the natural world, perhaps, as the younger people are getting. And so, but education shouldn't stop at school or university anyway. We should all be kind of wanting to learn more and more all the time. But also as well, coming on this show all last week and discussing climate change and hearing that people were skeptical about climate change in terms of it being man-made. That was actually an eye-opener for me personally about that. And I think that you should never patronize people and never kind of talk down to people who haven't had an education in climate change and the environment at all. We should be open and honest and have these discussions wherever we can, not just at schools. You're right, throughout the generations.
Yeah, you touched on it there, Christian. That was the question I was going to ask you. How do you educate people, especially older people, without sounding condescending, without sounding like you're patronising them? Because
$1 million question, isn't it?
As soon as you do that, as soon as you say to someone, "I'm going to educate you," people will, and I don't blame them, will instantly turn off.
100%, yeah. And $1 million question, how do you do it? I think, as kind of almost like with kids as well, with you teaching natural history at schools, it's encouraging people to get an appreciation of our natural world. And I think that you can do that at any age, to be honest. And I think that many people have had that disconnect for whatever reason. We live in cities, we're busy with families and work and all that kind of stuff, and we literally have a disconnect with the natural world. And I think that we need to try to get people connected with the natural world, however that is. And I think that that's something that can be done at any age, to be honest. People go to gyms and they're going to get fit, and at sort of any age as well. But what we should be doing is as well as kind of, because I'm in my 40s, so I've suddenly decided I need to get more fit and kind of going running and all that kind of stuff. But perhaps what we need to do as well is, when people get to that sort of age where they're looking for different aspects, like getting fit or whatever it may be, is saying, let's get out into the natural world. Look how fantastic this is. You've probably been walking past this park or this field, whatever it is, for years on your way to work. Now, kind of let's appreciate it. Let's get out there. And I think if we did it that way, if we started to kind of give people an appreciation of the natural world, then people will naturally want to learn more about it. They'll naturally want to kind of look after the natural world. And then I think that we will have this appreciation for climate change. But also as well, when it comes down to patronising, I think that this is when we have the tricky issue of the leaders, the elite, telling people what to do, and then they are not doing it. They are flying on private jets and all that kind of stuff. And I think we need to make sure that the people who are talking about climate change, the people who are talking about what we should be doing, are putting the action, are not just talking, they are actually kind of taking action themselves as well. Optics matter.
Yeah, and look, when you talk about, appreciation of the natural world, it's a path that Sir David Attenborough walks so well, isn't it? That he illuminates the world to us and makes us want to appreciate and protect it. And the elephant in the room, I suppose, in all of this is that actually, is Greta Thunberg more of a hindrance than a help, perhaps with the older generations, anyway, coming back to that, because the younger generation are already on board with this. She's kind of preaching to them, but all she's doing is giving those perhaps climate sceptics an excuse to not listen and take on board the arguments.
I think that's a really good point. Greta Thunberg has done fantastic work at highlighting this issue, bringing it to the fore. Her amazing work.
But she's been swearing this week and saying blah, 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 and it's taken a bit of a turn, I think. She's been really angry.
That's the issue now. I think, because she is now saying that, this is all a greenwashing event, etc., and it's not going to achieve it. But, I mean, hats off to her. If she's read all the documents that have come out of COP already, I haven't read them all yet, so I cannot say, hand on heart, whether this has been a success or it's been a failure yet, because literally I haven't had time, and the documents aren't there yet for us to read. So to say halfway through this has been a failure, I think is disingenuous, and that sounds to me a little bit like a pre-written script that she was going to say no matter what. And I think what we need to do is these protests that are happening, these marches, not protests, but these marches, this public awareness today is important. And I fully support people going out there in a peaceful, law-abiding way to kind of make their point that we need something done about this. Brilliant. Let's go for it. But what we also need to do is accept the fact that at COP, the leaders, the negotiators are still working through. So let's give them that time to try to kind of get some sort of deals before we can then say whether this has been a failure or a success. And then let's keep the pressure on them to make sure they deliver on whatever they have said. That is essential. But to kind of swear and kind of throw kind of summaries about the whole event already right now, I don't think is the correct thing to do. We just don't know enough about these deals. As she's quite rightly says, there are loopholes, but we don't yet fully know the legality of those yet, because the information just isn't there yet. So we do have to be careful about what we say, in things like that. But putting pressure on the leaders is essential.